introduced legislation drilling for more oil and natural gas, and one of my friends on the other side said, well, where do you think we should drill for oil and natural gas? Well, it's simple. We ought to drill for oil or natural gas anywhere there is oil or natural gas. Except cemeteries. And in Texas, we know how to slant drill into a cemetery. So we ought to drill anywhere there's oil or natural gas. So let's open up all of the coasts, from Maine to Florida to Texas, and even out there on the left coast with California, Oregon, and Washington. Anywhere there's oil or natural gas. And do this. Rather than the federal government get that lease revenue, that millions of dollars that oil companies have to pay to lease out there in the Gulf and out east and west coast, rather than let the federal government get it all, let's split it. Give 50% to the states that allow offshore drilling, and the other half go to the federal government. And then states can use the money however they want to. Make it profitable for the states to allow offshore drilling. We can do it safely. We've been able to do it safely for years, but the fearmongers had rather we buy our oil from somebody else. And those days have got to stop. I've had the chance to, since I served on the Foreign Affairs Committee, go overseas, serve on the Terrorism Subcommittee, and see our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've been there several times. And let me tell you something, folks. Our troops that are in Afghanistan and Iraq are the finest military that has ever existed in the history of the world. Make no bones about it. Second place isn't even close. But they are not over there in foreign countries fighting for liberty and freedom for people we don't even know, just to come home to a country where freedom and liberty is being stolen from us by the federal government. They aren't over there for that reason. Recently, we had, anybody in the Navy around here? Former Navy? Okay, we got a few. Recently, we had this outlaw, this terrorist, captured. Here's what he did. Back in 2004, he planned the kidnapping and assassination of 4 civilian security guards that were working in Fallujah. Their bodies were mutilated, they were set on fire, they were dragged through the streets, and their bodies were hung from a bridge in Fallujah. I have seen that bridge in Fallujah. And he bragged about it on the internet, doing this. And recently, he was captured by 3 of our Navy SEALs. After he was captured and turned over to the Iraqis, he said that the Navy SEALs gave him a fat lip. It must have hurt his little terrorist feelings. And what our government did was charge the Navy SEALs, court-martial our Navy SEALs, and next week they stand trial for assaulting this terrorist. Well, myself and many others have filed legislation to try to stop that nonsense. And my feeling is we ought to have a little ceremony. Bring the Navy SEALs in, give them a medal, send them out there to bag another one. Recently in Washington and soon this week in other places in the United States, we're going to have the National Day of Prayer. My goodness, we need all the help we can get. Now, we need the National Day of Prayer. But some federal judge in Wisconsin has decided that it is unconstitutional to have the National Day of Prayer. She said it's unconstitutional to have the National Day of Prayer. Well, the day we remove the phrase, the national motto, "In God We Trust," we're in trouble. And that federal judge has got a fight on her hands. Because we're going to pray on the National Day of Prayer, whether the federal judges like it or not. The only reason this country is successful is because God, for some reason, continues to shed His grace on us and bless this nation. And the least we can do is pray. And contrary to what people say and those who want to change history, our forefathers were God-fearing folks. And they believed in the Almighty because God gave us our rights, not the federal government. And to thank Him every once in a while on National Day of Prayer is something we ought to do. Now, I want to kind of tell you about the people I represent. Second Amendment. You know, the Second Amendment is there for a reason, and it's second for a reason. It's a powerful amendment, and it's to protect us from the tyranny of government. That's why the Second Amendment is there. And they're never going to get our guns. We're not going to let any legislation ever pass to take guns away from the American people. That's what's enslaved people all over the world, is the fact that they don't have the Second Amendment. And the government is not going to take away our Bibles or our guns or our God, no matter how many of those want to in Washington, D.C. So, we have a choice before us. You do. Those of us in Congress, those that serve in the State House, those that serve in the courthouse. We have to choose between the path of more government tyranny or the path of individual freedom. We have to choose between the motto, "We the people," or "We the subjects." And you know, Patrick Henry said it best. Well, it's really Thomas Paine. He said, "Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. The more difficult the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." Our job is not easy, fighting for America. You see, we have a battle here like our troops have overseas. They're fighting a different kind of battle. We don't fight a battle with guns. We fight a battle at the voting booth and at the courthouse. We will fight those battles there. And it's important that we stay engaged. You know, our founders made the right choice, the tough choice. The American Revolution took 8 years to be successful. So, the question is, this day, this time, this hour, will we stand for government tyranny or will we stand for personal liberty? I personally choose we the people, not we the subjects. And I hope you make that choice too. I mentioned at the outset, my favorite person was William Barrett Travis, the commander of the Alamo from South Carolina. And before the last battle at the Alamo, where 187 people, all volunteers from every state in the Union, including, of course, South Carolina, 13 foreign countries, were defeated by 6,000 enemy troops. He wrote a letter that was just as pertinent then as it is today. And bear with me, I would like to read from one of your native sons who lived to the age of 26. Here's what he said. "To all Americans in the world, I am besieged by 1,000 or more of the enemy. I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannon fire for over 24 hours, but I have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded surrender. I've answered that call with a cannon shot, and the flag still waves proudly over the wall. I shall never surrender or retreat. And I call upon you in the name of patriotism and everything dear to the American conscience to come to my aid with all dispatch. If this call is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself for as long as possible and die like a soldier that never forgets his obligation, his honor, and his duty. Victory or death. So I say this to you this day, that we will win this conflict. And the reason we will win this conflict because we're not going away. We will not disappear in the darkness of the night. We will not give up without a fight. Our cause is righteous. Our actions are just. We will win this conflict and take America back.